Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very cool and informative video. We're going to be talking about how to introduce color into your studio photography, and we have 5 different setups and I'll be explaining them a little more in depth as the video goes on. But before I do, I'm going to let my model introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Martinez. I'm from Bushwick and my ethnicity, I'm Puerto Rican, and yeah, I'm excited for the shoot.
Yeah, so this is our second time working together, and yeah, I'm very excited to do the shoot. Very briefly, for our first look, we're just using one light. We're using a pocket RGB, so these are super affordable and the easiest way you can start introducing color into your studio photography. And as you can see here, I'm just using one light with a simple light stand, so you don't need an expensive C-stand or anything like that. So we just did a very moody look. We have the light basically in a split lighting setup to create a lot of mood and emotion. We have shadows on half the face, and we're going to be transitioning to more of a color setup now, and we're going to be using a shutter drag technique all with one light. So for the second look that we did with one light, we use a shutter drag technique, and we're still using the same pocket RGB. This one is by Falcon F7, by the way. But the goal to create this effect, you need to get the room as dark as possible, and I would recommend using a dark or black background, and then I added a black V-flat so that you create even more shadows on the face and basically help to create contrast. So contrast is basically what you're going for with this light. You want the light positioned high above the model. You want instruct the model to look into the light so you get a catch light in their eye. Then you lower your shutter speed on your camera, and you just drag your camera really fast while you press down the shutter, and you create this effect that you see right here. And if you do it correctly, then you'll see a nice catch light as the light drags throughout the frame. And yeah, so you create 2 different looks with just one very affordable pocket light. So for level 2 of using color with studio photography, we're moving on to RGB panels. So we're still not your traditional studio lights, but these are also pretty affordable. You can find a lot of package deals on websites like Amazon and B&H and KEH. But you can just search up RGB panels. These come with the studio, so a lot of lights like these will come often with your studio rental. So just look to see which studios has which lights that you can use. And these are by Neewer. These are 1200 watt, I believe. And we're just going to be using the built-in barn doors on them. We have 2 lights set up here. We're going to be using both a CCT light here and also an RGB light, and then we're going to be doing a slightly different look with 2 RGB lights. But right now we have it in a cross lighting setup that you'll see in a moment. Basically, we're going to have the model sit here. We have the CCT light in front, 45 degrees in front, and then perpendicular, we have an RGB light for a nice fill light. It's going to create some glow and fill in the areas that the CCT light doesn't fill in basically. And I'm going to put the values of each on the screen in a moment, but I always recommend that you have your CCT light, either one of the lights more intense than the other. Don't recommend having them at the same intensity. You can play around with which one is more intense, which one is basically the key light. But yes, you will see what it looks like in just a moment. Alright, so with this new version of the 2 lighting setup with the RGB panels, I have red in the fill/hair light position. Previously it was high above as more of a hair light. Right now it's more as a fill light and secondary key. And with RGB lights, you can play around with the saturation of the lights. So right now this is at 100% saturation with the red light, and the blue light is at 71 saturation. So the lower saturation you go, the more of a white light it becomes because there's less color that the LED is producing. And 100, it's 0 white light and all RGB LEDs that the light is producing. So right now this is at 71%. So you could play around with your saturation to create a nice effect. And something to keep in mind when you're going with 2 different colors, you're gonna get colors mixed. So with red and blue, you're gonna get a little bit of purple if you're not too careful. And you have both of them at 100%. By having this one at 71% saturation, you're not gonna get too much purple when they mix and meet each other on the model's face. And by playing around with the lighting position, you can create a shadow where they would meet and mix and create colors too. So that's another tip for you. So for level 3 of working with color and studio lights, we're now transitioning to using more traditional studio lights. So right now I have the Ambitful FL 80 watt light and also the Sony 80 watt light, but they're basically the same exact light. They have different names, but they have the same controls, same light. I believe I bought the Sony one it was on sale for $80, and then the Ambitful one for $130. So still very affordable, and in some cases they can even be cheaper than RGB panels that we just used in level 2. So right now I have one of the studio lights set up with the reflector dish. We have the second studio light with the Fresnel attachment. This is at 100% intensity, and that's about 70% intensity. So we get a little bit of white light, so it's not overcasting the model's face, basically. And what's special about this setup is that we're bringing back the pocket RGB light from the first look that we did. I have this on an orange hue, 100% intensity. You could get any lamp. I just brought a lamp that I had from home. I'm just placing it in the lamp to create a nice glow. And so with 3 relatively affordable lights, you can create a cool look that you'll see in a second. But this is the lighting setup for look number 3. And I'm still using light stands for the 2 studio lights, and I'm doing that on purpose because C-stands can quickly add a lot of money to the budget. So you can still create these looks but really affordable. I think one of these is an Amazon basic light stand. The other is from Neewer, so another affordable brand. And while I am doing this on a cyc wall in a studio that I have access to, I've done very similar lighting setups that you can find on my Instagram in the living room of some of my college apartments before. You really just need to get creative with your space. And one more thing I forgot to mention is that we're gonna be bringing in haze into this look for this look and the rest of the looks in the shoot. So the great thing about haze is that it can just create a nice atmosphere, and depending on the modifier you have in your studio lights, you can create visible light beams. So we're not gonna create any visible light beams for this look, but just haze, it adds a little bit of texture and atmosphere to your photos. And I'm using a $30 fog machine from Amazon. I've used way more expensive ones, and this one does the exact same job as a $300 fog machine that I used to have. And while it is a fog machine, you can create haze by just doing it in spurts and then dispersing it by wafting the air with like a piece of paper or a foam board. And then you don't need to buy a haze machine because haze machines can run you as much as $1,000 or even more. Another method that you can use to disperse the haze is just putting a fan in front of your fog machine, and then it'll help disperse the fog/haze a little more throughout the room. And of course, a smaller room will be more effective instead of a big studio like this one. Alright, so for look number 4, we're moving on to more professional studio lights. So I have 2 Neewer 200 CB lights. They're ranging, you could get them on retail from about anywhere from $180 to about $270. I find them on sale constantly. I got them each for $200. So, and then they're a little more professional than the Ambitful / Sony 80 watt lights. They're still not the most powerful lights, as there are some 300 watt and even 500 RGB lights, but these are definitely on the higher end for RGB studio lights. The great thing about them is that you can mount them to C-stands, you can mount basically any type of modifier to them, and they're way brighter than like other lights. So you can do a lot with them, especially if you're putting on certain modifiers. Like on this one, I have a gobo modifier, and certain modifiers like this one or something like your Fresnel lens, they're actually going to reduce the light output. So you're going to really need a high wattage light to counterbalance modifiers like this one, so you still get a bright output. But basically for this lighting setup, I have a gobo here that's basically just a rectangle or a slit. I have it projected onto the cyc wall, and that is the brightest light in the scene, at least it should be. And then we started with just that light and just a tiny bit of fill from the second Neewer 200C, but just it was maybe on like 5% intensity, and we started with silhouettes, and then we added this light for a rim slash hair light. This is just an RGB light bar. This particular one is from Godox. This is the LC500R. We can use any light bar basically. I could have even used the pocket light. I just wanted a little more light on the entire body instead of just right on the face if I was using a pocket light. And then once we added that in, then I increased the fill light so we get more global exposure on the entire scene. So a 3 light setup at the end. Alright, what's up everyone? We just finished look 5, which was the most complex out of all the looks. So briefly, we had a 4 light setup. We had 3 different light bars. One was the Godox LC500R, and 2 were the Viltrox. I'm forgetting their model name, but I'll have them on the screen or in the description below. We had them on a red hue, pointed up slightly. I believe they're all on 10% intensity. And then our key light with the blue hue was one of the Neewer 200Cs. We have a 23-inch, I believe, softbox with the honeycomb grid. And then I had Ayana, our hairstylist, hold an extra diffusion panel right in front of it because we really wanted to create that soft top-down light. And the good thing about LEDs is that they create uniform light spreading out evenly, which is why another reason why I love working with RGB LEDs as opposed to something like putting a gel on a strobe. And that was basically the light, and this is at 100% intensity, and it just creates a really nice soft light, and then you get a nice contrast from below from the light bars. I believe Jake Hicks popularized this lighting setup. I'm gonna make sure I get the name right and leave it in the description, of course. And yeah, any thoughts on the shoot in general?
I loved the shoot. I really had fun, and I also learned more about photography as well because I have 2 cameras at home. So I have a Canon T100 and a camcorder. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and hopefully you all at home learned something. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to explain something further. You can feel free to DM me on Instagram. I can also explain it over there. Everyone's social that worked on this shoot will be linked down below in the description, and I'm also going to put it up on the screen. And of course, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.